This is the tailstock of my new lathe, and the person who tried to fix it, I have no idea who it is, but this person, I hope, will never touch some mechanical work again. Let me show you why. This is some kind of, I think, homemade spindle, and there is one of many problems that we immediately see. A second problem is, here is a piece welded in, and in here for the moment it's a Morse taper 2. The original spindle has normally a Morse taper 3. The fun is when you put your cone in here and you want to extract, you need the key to knock it in. But as we can see, the cone isn't long enough. So putting a key in here is perfectly useless. No idea how they're gonna get it out. To prevent this thing from spinning, there is of course, as always, a keyway. And this is the little key that someone made. I will bring you closer, and as you can see, it is a piece of artwork. And the thing hardly fits in here. Of course, a spindle like this one you can also lock in place. So someone made this piece of artwork. No idea what it is, but normally you have this one. This one is aluminium, and I think this is an original one. I'm not sure. And yeah, okay, whatever. But wait, there is more. These are the 2 locking handles. I suppose pieces of artwork. And to lock this thing in place on the lathe bed, there is of course also this bottom plate. And here it is. Now I have no idea what it is. This is a piece of rust with 2 big holes in it and a small piece welded on. And here is a piece of something, I suppose it used to be a tool or I don't know what. And it's supposed to hold the nut in place, but as you can see, efficiency is not okay. The rod itself is full of burrs. I have to be very careful not to cut myself. And the plate is also welded on the bottom side, and also a piece of rust, and it's a little bit in ski shape. With the old spindle in the chuck, and I spin it around, I can see that the body of the tailstock is a tiny bit below center, but that will be an easy fix. So today's project is gonna be a big one, making all new parts. And I have here a future lead screw and a clamping plate and of course a new spindle. Let's start, for example, by making the new spindle. And I would like to do this here on my new lathe. But to make this part I need tail support. But tailstock. So I will do it here on the USSR lathe. And let me show you a little trick that I suppose you already know, but in case you don't. If you have a part with already a center in it, and you don't want the thing to wobble in your lathe when you install it in the jaws. Not too tight, so you can still move it by hand a little bit. And then you bring in the center point and put it in there, and you make sure the part will be pushed a little bit into the chuck. And at the same time you start tightening, which is for me a little bit complicated because there's a camera in the way, but I'm sure you got the point. Push the part in at the same time, tighten the chuck. And when everything is tight, you retract a little bit the center point, spin by hand, and you can check the run out. Now this method is of course not precise, but it brings you really close. I picked this thing up in the scrapyard, and I think it's a pin of a digging machine of some kind, I don't know. And let's see if the little lathe wants to cut it or not. This is of course only a roughing cut, but I think it leaves already a nice finish. Right, let's continue, make some chips. That will do. I left it 1.5 millimeter oversize. So now I can drill the hole in here as deep as possible. And I will have some material left for after to turn it between centers. I had a bit of hard time drilling this hole in here. It's very deep. From here to here. I pre-drilled with 7 millimeters. Perfectly fine. And then I pre-drilled with 11 millimeters. Till here. Perfectly fine. And finally I drilled with 13. And my drill bit started wobbling for I don't know what reason. But it's a new drill bit with the factory grind on it. So in theory it should cut. But whatever, the hole is drilled, and now I'm set up with my little boring bar, and I installed the top slide at the same angle as my taper I have to cut. So let's cut a taper. I have a taper. Now I made it Morse 2 because of course I only have Morse 2 tapers tuning. The day I will have something Morse 3 taper, I will change it. Right now, let's turn this thing the other way around and drill from the other side. there is something wrong with my coolant system pump thing here. Problem fixed. I thought first maybe it needed a bit more water, because every time vaporizes, of course. But no, that wasn't the case. It needed a lot more water. And now it works. I can see the coolant come out here from the other side. So I suppose we're through. To be able to turn my future spindle here between centers, of course I will have to plug this hole here, because now my center point will not work. So I will make a plug using this piece of gold here, that later on will become the lead nut. To make my little slug here, I did somewhere something stupid, I think, because the dimensions were not correct. Now luckily I only cut a little bit and did a test fit, and I don't know what happened. But luckily it was only a small cut, so I made it a little bit longer, and now it fits. And I also had to make a new lathe though, because the one I have is too small for this. Let's all right. To rough out my future spindle here, I used inserts and nice big cuts, and that gave me a really nice finish. And now, for I don't even know what reason, my inserts doesn't work anymore. Result, I had to switch to high-speed steel. So now I'm running at more or less 20 meters a minute, and the finest speed I have on this machine. And the finish is okay-ish. But of course it takes ages. Voilà. Of course, it didn't fit like this from the very first time I tried it. For I don't know what reason, this part had a bow in it. It was thicker in the middle than other parts. Don't know what happened. So I had to polish it out, and of course this boring, there were burrs in it and things and rust and I don't know what. So I had to clean it out, and after a few hours it fits finally. Right, I think it's time to make this groove here. 10 millimeters wide and more or less 5 millimeters deep. And I think the ideal machine to do this is of course the shaper. The only problem is that the maximum stroke of this machine is 200 millimeters. And my part is 250 millimeters. So in one go that's not gonna work. So I will do it here on the milling machine, because here I have a reach of 300 millimeters. For a part of 250, that's enough. Alright, that looks good. I have here a cute little chamfering tool, and one day I mistreated it and the point broke off, but I think it can still work to cut off these sharp corners here. Good. It's a really slow process, but at least it's less primitive than hand filing. And I think now it's time to make the little key that of course slides in the brand new slot, and that should normally fit in a hole in here. And to do this I will use a piece of, don't know, that's curly. I think it feels good to use a new lathe to make parts for itself. And I wanted to cut off these two half moons here, maybe, using the dividing head. Pinch it here on the 8mm shaft, cut one part, turn 180, cut the other one, and then square up both ends. That was the idea. But of course I don't have a 8mm collet to do this. So it will be a little bit primitive setup here in the vise. And here it is. Now, I made a little mistake. Of course, the bottom of this boring here is rounded. Makes sense, right? And I didn't think about it, and the bottom of my little T-piece here is flat. Result, the thing was sticking up a little bit higher than I wanted. I think it also makes sense. So I had to take it back to the milling machine and mill off a little bit of the top side, and that's why the thing turned a little bit blue here. But now it seems to work just fine. A little bit of play. Right, I think the rest of the build will be in another video, because I have to figure out how to make Acme threads to make a new lead screw.